Hi, I'm Susan Lee. This is for Module 5 for EDD 806 Assessment and Planning. I am going to begin with an overview of assessment actions. Our text outlined 5 critical aspects of quality assessment. These include developing a clear set of standards, ensuring that data from assessment is useful and clear to all those interested, having a school culture that understands what entails sound assessment practices, devising a system for gathering and managing assessment data, and formulating a policy that serves as a guide for assessment practice. The next question I wanted to address or topic is how teaching, learning, and assessment are interrelated. Assessment should show how well students have learned what we want them to learn, while providing accountability for our instruction that they learn it. So, of course, for this to occur, assessments have to be tied to the learning objectives and the instructional strategies. For example, if I want my first grade students to learn how to add two two-digit numbers, that would be my objective. I would need to instruct accordingly, and then I would want to have some kind of assessment to be able to find out whether I have taught my students that and to find out whether they have mastered the content. I'm going to remove my glasses so you can see my eyes a little better. If they have not mastered that content, then I need to go back and reteach that. So assessments, learning objectives, and instructional strategies are critical in order that they be aligned. The next topic that I wanted to address, my strengths and weaknesses related to assessment. I think I do a fairly good job of utilizing formative assessment throughout units. For example, I meet with students for one-on-one writers' conferences. I take notes regarding areas in which they are excelling or areas in which they need more support and instruction. My students work often with whiteboards and markers to practice a variety of skills, including phonics, spelling, math concepts. I tell students to hold up their boards and I give them immediate feedback regarding the accuracy of their answers. This is an example of informal formative assessment. It provides me a quick overview of how well students are understanding the concepts and allows me just to instantly reteach a topic if needed. I can also see if I can move on from that topic to the next one if most of the students seem to understand. If I am keeping notes or if I am just kind of storing it away in my memory, it also helps me to see which students are struggling, which students I may need to pull for some one-on-one or small group time. An area in which I would like to improve in formative assessments is taking more detailed data. Getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down or assessing answers via whiteboards is a good way for me to get immediate feedback. It helps me direct my teaching at that moment. However, it doesn't give me detailed data regarding each individual student. An example of this kind of data would be one-on-one writers' conferences that I just mentioned. However, it would actually include, instead of just informally meeting and looking at that student's work, actually sitting down, maybe using a rubric, taking detailed notes, and using that to help that particular student in areas in which he or she is struggling. I think it would be useful for me to use something more formal like this in all areas. My writers' conferences, my guided reading groups, my small group math work, all of that. I think I do a fairly good job at giving summative assessments at the end of units. Our math tests are provided by our textbook publisher. I have assessments that have been provided to me in my reading and my integrated studies, social studies, and science for my first grade team. I feel pretty comfortable with that. I feel like those are good assessments and they give me good feedback. An area of weakness that I would like to improve is the area of giving pre-assessments at the beginning of each new unit and using the data from those tests to differentiate instruction for my students. My school, I've mentioned this in some of my posts, but we're studying differentiated math for professional development this year, and a big push at my school is to have math groups. As I've also mentioned, I currently have reading groups. I think I do a good job with that. We use a program called Daily 5, which students participate in independent reading activities while I meet with reading groups. I spend a lot of time setting that system up so that students can be independent. And then I meet with groups reading books that are tailored to their what's called their DRA level, their developmental reading assessment level. However, I don't have anything like that right now for math, and that is the push at my school this year. So I'm only in my second year of teaching first grade. I've taught third grade, went to law school and practiced law for 10 years, then went into special ed, did that for the last 5 years. So I'm just in my second year of first grade, so I'm still kind of at the beginning of the learning curve. I learned a new writing curriculum this year, but on my to-do list is math this year, and I really would like to get better at that, and especially at differentiating instruction for my students. So that leads me to my next point, my action plan for improving my expertise with assessment. Really, my goal for this summer is to improve my assessment in the area of math. And specifically, I would like to use pre-assessments at the beginning of each new unit to find out what students know, what they need to know, and how to group students. And I would like to plan my instruction accordingly. So for example, a student that has already mastered most of the content as shown by the pre-assessment shouldn't be forced to sit through that instruction, but instead should be given work that stretches his or her understanding. Students that don't know or are really having difficulty, they're entitled to receive small group instruction or even one-on-one with me until they can master that. So my action plan for improving my assessment in this area is to take the summer to read and digest the book that we're reading. I'd like to make my own pre-assessments for each unit in our math textbook. Our curriculum provides pre-tests, but they actually just test whether students have the foundational skills for the unit, not whether they have already mastered the content for the unit. So that's my goal, is to make a pre-assessment for each unit. And then I want to think through what I will do with that data, because as we know, best practices requires us to use assessments in which the information is useful and provides feedback for our instruction. So I want to make the pre-assessments and then decide how I'm going to use that and how I'm going to group students and what students will be doing if they're not working with me in a small group environment. I think this will be a time-consuming but very worthwhile summer project. So that is my overview on assessment, and thank you for your time.